Hey, how you doing? It's Peter from the Nutch Morning Muse. How are you doing? Hope you're having a great time. It's very sunny and beautiful here in Toronto today. And I had some thoughts, as I usually do. Just want to rant. But I want to rant about the mud flood, if you've not gone down that rabbit hole, and many other things that kind of surface from it. So the mud flood is a phenomena, I'll just say, because it's not in any history books, but it's a profound insight to some of our world's history. It goes back to about the time of 1814, 1810, 1812, and around that time. Something happened, which many now through independent research have basically found that there was earthquakes, and there's a phenomenon of water and mud that comes up from the surface or of the planet, and it literally floods areas with mud. It's crazy. And in about this time, so many things happened in a change in our history. Now, you've heard about burning books and changing history from the oligarchs of the planet, and what they've done over millennia is to squash history so they can control it. They control the people, and they can tell you a lot of bullshit. Well, there's an area of Asia. It's called Tartaria. It's actually where present-day Russia is, and Tartaria was. When you look into it, there is little bits of history all around, and this history is pretty crazy. These people were very, very tall people, maybe 8 to 12 foot tall, maybe taller, I don't know. And they ruled the planet. They had technologies that were not unlike Nikola Tesla. These people also, there's underground. I talked in my last video about, Agartha and, the inner earth people and that whole realm. It's fantastic. I get goosebumps like crazy all the time I talk about it. That to me is a higher self guidance. And I asked today before this video to have guidance on this. So I'm just going to keep rambling. So the whole mud flood scenario happened back, as I said, in around 1810, 1815, in that zone of time. And what happened was, it's really remarkable, like right around the planet. So something global happened catastrophically to the planet. It created earthquakes and created all these things. And there is known, God, I'm getting on the highway and it's crazy traffic. You get in and you just don't want to go on it. That's me right now. So anyways, sorry. So, yeah, that's a little pain in the ass. So, so globally we had this thing. Something happened, and the architecture around the planet, like you can go from Japan to ancient Roman Greece area to homes all throughout North America and Europe, and you'll see this, Roman architecture. You'll see these pillars, okay? And so the mud flood, what happens when you start to investigate? You start to see that all of these buildings, major, what we would know now as kind of palatial estates to government buildings and, all these massive granite pillared structures, they all, not all, but many of them were partially buried. And so what we see today is basically the upper portion of the building. On excavations, for various reasons, the town needs to dig up the roads or something in front of the building or something like that. What they notice is that the building doesn't stop at ground level. Under the digs, the building continues to go down. And you see the brick, the windows, doorways, entrances. It just goes on and on and on. And it's it's shocking, because you look at these buildings and then you start to see the real scale of the size of the building. And the building is always, in these circumstances, massive. And you would see, okay, the archway to the door was like massive. The door must have been massive. So if you just look around your city and you'll see buildings like this. It's pretty evident when you're looking, and you'll see these buildings and you'll see this massive archway, but it's been now tailored to a 6-foot-ish tall person, or 5 to 6 foot person, as we see humans, and you're not seeing the huge archway. So it supports the understanding of the Tartarians, these larger statured people, as being that were around. And then you start to go into the mounds. There's mounds all across the planet. There's all over the United States. And in these mounds, they've been excavated, and within these mounds are actually bones. Okay? They're massive giants underneath, giant skeletons that have been buried under these mounds. And sometimes dozens of these skeletons are there. And the interesting thing is that you start to piece little things together that we've been seeing all across, just general historical finds. And you start to see that the giants ruled the planet, right back from the Egyptian times. The Egyptians, there was the ruling Egyptian, sometimes a snake-headed, bird-headed figure, and then the minions down below, which were the humans, right? So it's this whole thing. So when you go down the path, down the rabbit hole of this mud flood, it pieces together a lot of things. So something happened in that time, and I'm just going to ramble a little more on it. There was an interesting influx of familyless children, orphans. There was orphans all over the place. Something happened to the adults. I don't know. And we do see this 100-year pandemic, vaccination, fumigating kind of scenarios. And this happened as well back in that time. So something killed off in some way. And I mean, this is speculating, but something, I'm just going to say, this is that side of me saying, yeah, people died, the kids were left over, and now we have orphanages all over the place coming into play here. So if you look back in history, all these orphanages sprouted up at that time. There's a train, supposedly the orphan train, little Orphan Annie. There's all these things, like it's a playbook for Disney. You can go down that whole thing. So it's like there's been this cycle of harvesting the kids, right? And what are we seeing playing out today is saving the kids, right? If you're going down that path, right? If you're in the know, right? You're viewing this video because you're probably in the know. So it's so incredibly fascinating, but it really paradigm shifts your brain into, like, we are so manipulated down here. We have purposefully been brainwashed to not know real history, right? If you even go down the path of, and I'm sorry if you're German, but your ancestry, some of them were fuckers, and they took over most of the planet, okay, in time of this mud flood. They actually, so you can imagine, we have history of in North America, there's a history of the Mayflower coming over, and all these people from Europe coming over to basically propagate the North American landscape with cities and all that. What you start to find out is a lot of these cities have been around for a long time. You think they've been built, but no, I think they've been built, could be thousands of years old. I don't know how old some of these structures are. We're just taught that, they won't last that long. But I think really the German culture knows something. Hitler knew something. He knew how to get out through, satanic seances with, there's some blondes that he, satanic, I don't think they were satanic, but I think it became that. They're seers, fortune tellers, prophets, prophetic people who can see the future and stuff like that. They gained knowledge in certain ways, but the families that took over, that we know of, the oligarchs, the main 13 families that are from the Venetian times, the Phoenician families, like they seem to be kind of all over the map all the time. Why do they know this stuff? Why do they know? They must know the cycle. They must know what the cycle of humanity is every 100 years. I don't know what it is. It seems to be the life cycle of a human. If you live longer than 100 years, it's an anomaly. Like, we only live, 70 to 75, what's the average age? 72 to 80, 90 years. Like, if you're in that zone, it's pretty normal. Not many people live into their 110 and 120s, but I think it's possible. I think our bodies are actually able to probably go to 150, but that's another topic. But it's interesting that these families are in the know. They know all this stuff, and they have been in control. And you can factor every aspect of life, like religion. You can do everything, and if you could just take the orphans, the kids, and grow them up and totally tell them bullshit and say, this is your life, this is what your history was, and totally nothing like the reality, and say, this is who it is, this is the religion to believe in, blah blah blah. I mean, you can just go tell them anything. Tell them in a fucking storybook, this is fucking life. Obviously they're not everybody died at that time. It wasn't like the whole fucking all of adults died. So there were people who didn't, succumb to this, brainwashing. But and I think that's why we know some of this history. Let's just take the global maps. How did they fucking map out? Like, really, this always gets me. How do you map out a fucking country in the fucking 1800s, 1700s, 16, 15? There's no fucking way. Like, I'm in Toronto right now. It's going to take me 35, 40 minutes of consistent driving at 100 plus K. Let's just say average 75K, 70K to get to a destination. Okay, that's great. But 200 years ago, this is all trees. There was no roads. There's no way you're going to ford through fucking trees and not only get to a destination, but you're going to be able to fucking map it out exactly to the fuck. There's no way. I don't care who these surveyors were. It's bullshit. That's a bullshit scam right there. And that's a fucking paradigm shift. So getting back to these maps, somehow, some way these maps were made. I think they were made from having a viewpoint above. Okay, you had to. There's so many details on these maps, and these surveyors and these guys that fucking were able to survey and travel the globe in their ship and fucking map out a fucking coastline. Bullshit. I tell you, it's bullshit. It's too fucking crazy detailed. Just to give you another fucking insight that I've had personally, I was at a city in Newfoundland, and that coast is fucking jagged in and out all around, and I wanted to just go from one part of a town to the main city center, and I asked one of the guys, he was a trekking guy around the area. He actually owned an adventure clothing and tenting and all that shop, and he told me it would take you 2 weeks to probably walk that coastline, because what I had found previous was like a little trail, and I wanted to run from this little town to the main city, St. John, and he said that would take you 2 weeks going in and out the inlets and all that shit. And I was like, wow. So anyways, my point is, there's no way a fucking person can map that out and fucking map out a whole fucking, like, here's all the lakes, here's all the fucking, like, imagine going around a lake and knowing where you are in the vicinity just by compass, like that's fine, you know where you are. But to literally map out exactly to scale relative to that, to me, yeah, you can survey, but you can't fucking survey a fucking world like that. There's no way. Just a couple little guys. Oh, just one Joe Blow. What's his Abbott or something? There's a guy who surveyed most of Canada. Like, to fucking walk to where I'm going today would take you fucking a week going through the bush, getting eaten by fucking mosquitoes, you know, hunting off, you know, wildlife and bears and coyotes chasing you, and wolves, whatever. Anyways, it's a whole thing. Getting back to the maps. The maps, if you go and search out Tartaria, you'll find maps with Tartaria on it. I never knew the fucking thing existed prior to finding out about the mud flood, right? And this gives you insight to, like, okay, so who's controlling the data, the information? Why is this information being withheld? Why did I not learn this, right? Obviously, right? So this is the point. They're dumbing us all down. They have been forever. And you need to go down the rabbit hole of the mud flood. It's fucking crazy amazing. And it's going to paradigm shift you 5 times. Because you think you have it all, and then you go, holy fuck, there's more. And it might make you fucking loony at first, but I tell you, if you're on this side and you're seeing what I'm talking about in terms of you're woke, you know, like this is just another crazy element that you want to know. And crazy stuff. I could talk all day on this. This is already 16 minutes. So look, check it out. I learned this 4 years ago maybe, and I just fucking put in the back burner as another thing. But a lady, I'll put her description down here in the box, and she did an awesome video. It's like 45 minutes, and she pulled up stuff and connecting the Nile River, all right, and the Mississippi. And what is interesting is that all of these structures, all of these things I've just been talking about, are very synergistically aligned with the Nile. So you'll find a lot of these mounds, historical, like, buildings, but you know the Pentagon, you know, is a pentagon shape, right? That shape is everywhere, right? There's a reason for it, like the Merkaba and all the spiritual side of things, the tree of life. It just goes on and on that shape, but that geometric stuff is all around, and it was all around like hundreds of years ago. Like they're showing that there is a connection. This lady showed that there's a circle that is the same shape, the same I don't know if it's the exact dimensions, but it looks so similar to Stonehenge. Okay, and this is a 5,000, 6,000 year old structure, and this has also been dated the same, but it's on private land. You wouldn't know it was there unless you fucking searched it out, probably with Google. It's crazy. So there's a lot of synergy, and then you see, like, why did she put in her videos talked about the Germans coming over. I know I briefly mentioned that. I didn't elaborate more because I got off on a tangent. But the Germans in the world have really taken over. The German Jews, and I'm not fascist. I'm not fucking prejudiced. I just want to know. Okay, I love everybody. The point though is it appears that the Germans came over and took over right around 1814. They came over and took land. And all of the lands that they took over today are really the wealthy areas. And they were just opportunistic probably. I mean, there's no slighting to them, but if there is the Venetian family tree connections all over, which there are, you know, you start seeing Monsanto, you start seeing a whole bunch of things, man. It's just phenomenal. She put an incredible video together. It's so worth looking at. So anyways, I could go on and on. It's fun as fuck to look into it, but also just, as I said, paradigm shifting, and go for it, check it out, and I'll be back with another video. I'm just being inspired to do different things. I want to put out some health videos because I'm a health practitioner. I know my videos make me look like a fatty, but an unhealthy guy, but I think I've just let myself go a bit. But anyways, that's an ego talk. But anyways, I want to do that. I want to give you some health knowledge I've picked up over the years, guided from above, because that's to me the only truth out there, and that's when I've been able to heal and help a lot of people with a lot of different ailments. You can name anyone, and I've probably touched on it with clients. So anyways, I look forward to talking to you in the next one, and wish you lots of love, and stay positive, and stop listening to that shite on the fucking media, mainstream. Get off the TV and stop listening to the lies and deceit coming out of that vocal box. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Lots of love. Bye.